Hi everyone, welcome to Regan Radio. Today I'm sitting down with Jenny and we were going to have a bilingual conversation in English and Chinese and hopefully we can understand each other. We were going to chat about some of the difficult things that Chinese people go through when they move to a foreign country, and in this situation, New Zealand, because that's where we are right now. Now, before we chat about this stuff, I just have to say that these videos are designed for people that are interested in learning Chinese or English. And they're also just videos for anybody that speaks both of these languages and just wants something to listen to, maybe passively, like passive listening, language learning content. Okay, so let's jump into this. Before I ask you some questions about difficult things in New Zealand, what has life been like for you in New Zealand for the last, you've been here more than 6 months now maybe, so you have a pretty good idea of what it's like living in New Zealand. Do you find things difficult here in general, or is life here quite simple for you? More difficult or more simple?
我觉得对我来说的话，在新西兰的生活是相对来说比较简单的吧。不是让我觉得很困难的事情。
Okay, so life's pretty simple mostly for her, but there are going to be some things that are difficult for her. And I've talked to quite a few Chinese people here, and there are definitely things that are difficult, just like when I went to China, a lot of difficult things that I had to deal with. China's a very complicated place. I think New Zealand is a much more simple place, but of course there's still going to be problems, you know, cultural differences, for example. So one thing is the big topic in China, which is food. Maybe we can start with this, and you can tell us about what are maybe 2 or 3 of the difficult things for you when choosing food, eating food, you know, buying food, finding food.
就是关于食物这方面，我最近倒是有很多不同的想法、不同的见解。就在互联网上现在有一句比较流行的话吧，不知道你听没听说过？就不仅是关于新西兰的食物，也关于西方的食物。对，因为你知道中餐和西方的食物区别很大，对吧？
Yes.
但是，之前我的口味是肯定是更偏中餐，然后现在的话，我越来越能理解，从之前不理解白人饭，到理解白人饭，到爱上白人饭。所以现在就是在食物这方面，我已经没有任何感觉到困难的地方了。
I could translate this bit. Let me just translate some of this stuff. So she's turned to the dark side. She's been converted into enjoying more Western style food now after living here, which is great. Cool. Ka pai. Ka pai is
是什么意思？
it's a Māori word. Ka pai, I think it means good.
Good. Ka pai.
Ka pai, good.
是因为我现在觉得最主要的原因呢，就是因为从健康的角度，我觉得不可否认新西兰的食物有太多甜的东西，这也是导致我来到新西兰迅速变胖的原因。但是除了抛开甜食，我觉得它是非常营养、非常健康的。就是从营养的角度来说，我觉得新西兰的食物和白人饭是非常好的。
I'm just curious, what is 白人饭? You mean, how do I translate 白人饭?
Western food.
Okay, I thought it was like 西餐, but you can also say 白人饭.
对，白人饭。
好，行吧. Okay, so she's saying that maybe a lot of the Western food is a bit healthier than a lot of maybe Chinese food. But she did say that a lot of food here has a lot of sugar in it. It's very sweet, and that's true. Yeah, another good point. You want to add more?
我觉得主要原因就是因为西方的食物可能他们的烹饪方式更加简单 ，much easier to cook， 所以这也导致了它更加健康。 第二点呢，就是在中餐的话，往往会重油重盐，放很多的调料。那么在吃完中餐之后，你再吃普通的食物，你会感觉到非常的没有味道。但是我在吃了尝了之后，白人饭就是西式食物之后，我反而会觉得能够品尝到食物原本的味道。这一点是非常好的。
Got it. So, couple of things, two things. The food here is more simple, and it means that it's easier to cook, right? And the other thing she's saying is in China you have a lot of sauces, a lot of flavors, and a lot of stuff, oils, spices. That makes it more difficult when you try to eat other food. You might it's like an overload of your senses in China. I think that's a good description. But here in New Zealand, food is more simple. She's saying, is there, when you're at home cooking, I assume that you're cooking at home, which is something you have to do in New Zealand. Is that a difficult thing for you? Is that a new thing for you? And are you cooking more Chinese food or more Western food at home?
来到新西兰之后，我才发现我非常喜欢做饭，而且我非常喜欢挑战新的菜式、新的食谱。我觉得食谱 recipe 这个对我来说是一件有意思的事情，就是可能会成功，会失败，也会有很多惊喜 surprise。我觉得这一点是非常好的，做饭是一个很有意思的事情。还有就是在新西兰，我之前的话可能会更倾向于做中式的食物，比较熟悉。但是现在我发现，去超市和去像 Saturday Market， 我会越来越注意到一些我不知道是什么样子的蔬菜，对，我会乐于去尝试。我觉得这也是一个比较好的体验。
So it seems like Jenny is enjoying the process of cooking food now. For me, since I came back from China, I still can't get myself to cook food. Like I'm stuck in the China style. I mean, not every in China it's so easy to just buy food, order food, get it delivered. So many restaurants, and there's a lot of places that don't even have kitchens. Like I lived in a few places that didn't have kitchens, so it kind of destroyed my enthusiasm for cooking when I was in China. But it was good because I had more time to do my own stuff, you know. But here in New Zealand, you have to really change your thinking, like change your habits, your lifestyle habits here. Hey, we also have Elaine here. Do you make more Chinese food at home or more Western style food?
昨天我还尝
It's kind of a complicated answer she gave. And what I'll do is I'll get Jenny to translate it into English because some of it I couldn't really understand.
Well, she means that she cooks what she has, in her fridge, just like her own style.
So what was the most, like the food 方面 here in New Zealand, what's the most difficult part about that for you? Nothing is difficult for Elaine.
对于食物方面，如果你要说困难的地方，我觉得第一不能点外卖，第二你不会想到说每餐都可以去外面吃。对，你在中国一日三餐在外面吃，我觉得都是很正常的。然后第三的话就是，喜欢吃的一些东西在这里买不到，比如说像黄瓜、像茄子、像番茄，在中国都是非常便宜和易得的食物，但是在新西兰我觉得可能会比较贵吧。大概就是这些困难的方面。
So she's just describing 3 difficult things about food now, just quickly to finish off this part. She said one was ordering food.
对。
There's a lot of things you can't order here. It's probably better just to not order anything.
对对对。
Well, most people don't order stuff. Maybe in bigger cities like Wellington, Auckland, maybe you can order more things, but it's not like China. Another thing she said was that it's hard to find a lot of things here. China's got so many different types of vegetables that I've just never seen before. I have no idea what they are. I mean, there's a lot of things I don't know what they are. But
对，但是最近我才发现新西兰也有很多食物是我不知道的。
okay, so it goes both ways.
对。
New Zealand also has. That's good to know. We have some things that Chinese people haven't seen before.
对
I mean, we do. We have like pies, for example.
，pies，
Pies, yeah.
你喜欢？
Maybe I can put a picture of a pie up here. I just saw a Chinese girl eating a pie before.
派可能就是，但是我们中国有我们中国的版本，就是馅饼。馅饼类似派，就是食物，它有很多都是有共通之处的，它都是很有 common ground。对，我说的是，比如说一些食材，比如说像 beetroot， 像 kale， kale，
不是 kill, it sounds like kill.
啊 kale， 还有
It sounds like kill.
还有什么叫非常多蔬菜，我最近不知道。
Like China has these white carrots.
White carrot，
Yeah, and I've never seen like a白土豆,白 carrot. 萝, yeah.
但是新西兰不是有 radish 吗？这不是一样的吗？
I don't know. Is it the same? I don't know. Okay, let's come back for a second. So, she said delivery is difficult here. You can't really do it. Like in China, you can just have breakfast, lunch, and dinner and order it all. It all gets delivered to your door by a friendly songtanda. I don't know what you call them, the delivery men.
骑手。
They're like soldiers, you know, in China at the moment. Because it doesn't matter if it's like rain, hail, snow. These food delivery men will be there. But I think they get paid more when the weather is like really bad. These guys. So they're real soldiers in China, these guys. Terrible at driving on scooters, incredibly dangerous, but they're like they've become almost like the lifeblood of Chinese economy now, the food economy. But and also the same thing applies for like buying things online, Taobao, Jidong, Ping 什么什么国
拼锅锅。
Pingguo, what? Ping Duo. So, and you also have the delivery men delivering all the packages, also on scooters,
Yeah.
also terrible drivers. Be careful. But anyway, so we're not talking about that. We're talking about New Zealand. Another thing I wanted to ask, other than food, is the pollen here in New Zealand.
Oh, okay.
Has the pollen been affecting you? I just talked to a girl before. This is why I'm talking about this topic, is because I talked to a girl. She was eating a pie, and she was blowing her nose, and her eyes were a little bit red. She looked tired, and she told me the pollen is really bad. And my nose has been running. I've been coughing last week. You can hear, like right now, my voice sounds really bad. I think it's just because of the pollen here. Grass pollen, tree pollen. It's spring. Does this affect you?
我觉得这个可能和每个人的体质有关。对于你说的这种花粉过敏的现象，我没有。但是我在新西兰和在中国，因为我都是会怎么说呢？我的症状不一样，我可能去到草很多、花很多的地方，我的身体、我的皮肤会非常痒。对，这个是我的问题，但是不是和在新西兰的花粉很多有关，而是说在中国、在新西兰都有的一个现象。就我不能够去草很多、花很多的地方。
Sometimes I don't know how people can come here and deal with that kind of thing, but maybe it's just less people than I thought it was that are being being affected by that. I think I was in China for too long, and I came back, and I've been getting allergies here, and I've never had allergies for my whole life, so I don't know what's going on with that. Okay, all right. So another thing I wanted to ask Jenny about. It's a bit more unique to New Zealand. Right now, it's Te Reo Māori Week here in New Zealand,
对对对。
celebrating the Māori language, which was introduced, I think, in the 1970s as an official language I mean, it's always been official, but, made official on paper in writing, let's say, as part of New Zealand's 3 official languages, English, New Zealand English, Te Reo Māori, and New Zealand Sign Language. I just wonder, for Chinese people, seeing Māori words in a lot of places, does that get confusing for you? Have you ever had difficult moments where you can't understand what someone's saying if they use some Māori words, or maybe you read something in Māori and you don't, has this been difficult for you in any way? Have you learned any Māori?
关于毛利语的话，我觉得与其说对我来说是困难的事情，我觉得不如说是一种新的文化体验。对，因为毛利文化它只有在新西兰才有，这个是它的一个特色。那来到这里之后，我确实体验到了很多没有感觉到很困难的地方，对我来说反而很新奇。就像你刚才说的那句话是什么 ？Very good 那个。卡派，对，因为我刚刚上完课，我的 room teacher 走的时候也跟我说卡派是什么意思。哎，现在这个我知道了，谢谢你。然后还有就是你在不知不觉之中你会学到很多，因为现在在我看很多毛利语的话，我觉得它只是一种外语，不是很了解，但是有时候你也会感觉到很有意思，像也是最近我才知道毛利语的发音那个 WH 是读 FAF 的音，对吧？所以像我一直以为 Nelson 叫 Wakatu， 对吗？但实际上叫 Fakatu。所以我觉得学到很多，挺有意思的。
Interesting. Oh, that's cool. That's a great example. So Nelson is called Fakatu, and for a lot of people that probably sounds a little bit strange, but it's not English, right? And this is there's a lot of popular sports people that have very quite long and complicated Māori names as well. If you like to watch rugby, for example, you'll see a lot of the players come from the Pacific Islands. They have that ethnic background. The Māori aspect is not really difficult for you, but it is something that you do see and hear, and people are using it to communicate. Like people are using Māori words quite a lot in just everyday conversations, and you can hear it.
我觉得对我来说，我觉得不困难的原因，就是因为我在日常生活中没有听见他们说很多的毛利语，更多的是比如说像什么开学典礼，或者是像一些重大活动，他们会说很多毛利语。那这个时候我是听天书，完全不理解，但是我当时也没觉得很困难，我就觉得听不懂就算了，就是这种。你这样说的话，这个确实是一个困难的地方。
Māori doesn't seem to be a problem mostly, and Jenny's saying like if there is a time where she can't understand, then she just can't understand, and that's acceptable. That's fine. I think the amount of Māori that's being used in New Zealand right now is okay. It's acceptable. Like I don't think it's giving anybody a headache, and I think it's just enough to start getting people to think a lot more about it. And probably one of the difficult things is when some organizations in New Zealand have been renamed using from English names into Māori names. And that's been a little bit tricky. But other than that, I think everything's been okay so far.
我觉得只能说不能说困难，只能说你使用不能够说用毛利语让事情变得困难，但是毫无疑问，你用英文会更方便，对吧？
I mean, English is always going to be easiest because I just grew up with that, and I honestly feel there were not enough opportunities. Like if I do wish that there were more opportunities to have learned Māori in the past. We did sing a lot of songs in like primary school when we were kids, and the teachers would use Māori words in different people have different abilities, and things have changed a lot now in the last maybe 5 years, where there are a lot more educators, let's say, or just general people who can say quite a lot in Māori, and there's a lot more classes going on. Probably in most cities you can find a Māori class, but you can't find a Chinese class, you know what I mean? And at the same time, there are issues with foreign language learning becoming less and less important these days as well, which is also maybe a separate topic that I've been meaning to talk about that I haven't talked about yet. But the last thing I want to ask you, otherwise this is going to be a long video, is you've been doing some Chinese teaching, and you know what's it like, you know, working as a Chinese teacher here? Is there anything that's difficult about that part of your life?
我觉得教中文，在这里教中文对我来说没有什么困难的地方。困难的地方可能在于语言吧，还是语言障碍。对，因为虽然我是学英文，但是我不觉得我的英文非常好。如果我的英文能够让我能够更加无障碍的去和学生沟通、交流、解释，那我觉得我可能教中文也能更加得心应手，就更好。对，因为有时候我觉得学生说的一些话，或者是学生们自己的闲聊，我其实有时候是 get 不到的。对，是，所以我觉得这个算是一个稍微困难一点的地方。
So was that just not being able to understand like the English dilemma, the English problem, English ability kind of holds you back a little bit, prevents you from...
对，这个是一点。还有一点的话，可能就是因为中文它毕竟在新西兰它只是一门不是那么重要的外语，所以和在中国教英文是完全不一样的。因为你在中国教英文是英语是算是主科，所以学生们其实是很重视的。但是在这里的话，大家可能更多的是把它当兴趣一样学，那么就会想来就来，想不学就不学。这样的话，我觉得他们的学习是不连续的。这个也是一个问题。
Oh, that's a bit more complicated. So she's comparing English learners in China with Chinese learners in New Zealand, saying that the English is compulsory in China, and so people are kind of not forced, but they have to learn it. Here in New Zealand, people can be more 随意的。
对 ，very flexible。那这样的话，他们学习中文，我觉得会相对比较慢，而且会不连续 ，not continuous。
It's easy to probably just give up. You learn for fun, but it can also be good. Learning for fun is good, right? And not learning for tests is horrible sometimes. Like I think of Yasa, TOEFL, TEM4. Like these English tests are, a lot of students complain about them in China. It's only really the limitation of English then, your English ability. I've always said this, like, whenever you go to another country and you want to live in another country, I feel like your happiness and your success is related to your ability to speak the language in that country. And the better you are, the more successful you can become. But, you know, people can disagree with that. But if you're in China, you know, last video I made was about why learn Chinese. You can find that video in the list somewhere. And there were quite a few people saying, like, in China, especially doing business, it's probably better to just speak English because so many people speak English there. There was a lot of people saying this kind of thing, like, you don't really need Chinese in China. But anyway, so that's a bunch of different things that are difficult. I wonder if, can you add one more thing that might be difficult for you, or not just you, but also a lot of Chinese people also have experienced the same or similar problems here. Maybe something like transportation issues or beauty issues, like, you know, can you get the cosmetic products that you want? Can you get the haircuts that you want? Can you get the clothes that you want? What is another big problem that Chinese people face here?
你这样说的话，那就不止一个。我觉得就像你说，交通是一个问题。这里的公交车半个小时、1个小时才来一趟， 然后选择也不是那么多，打车、地铁这些都没有，这个对我来说是一个问题。而且像 Nelson 他的公交车可能有时候周日就没有，有时候很晚比较早就结束了，对，这个是一个问题。第二个问题的话，它可能就是没有夜生活。你夜晚的话，你出去空无一人，有时候白天也是没有什么人，对。然后还有那就很多，比如说像购物的问题，在这里我觉得网上购物很不方便，大部分都是从一些官网上购买，对吧？但是你像淘宝这种汇集有很多选择不同品牌的，那这种就不是很方便，可能需要从澳洲买或者是怎么样，对。然后还有就是像对 haircut 这个问题，剪头发这个问题，对我来说我觉得也是一个对很多女生也是一个问题吧，因为我觉得在这里你染头发或者是卷头发和中国相比是非常贵的，对，所以我也打算把我的头发留长，等我回国之后再去做头发，对，但是你要染头发就只能自己染。
Everything closes here really early, especially in this city, and that creates problems. So, especially like transportation, you can't, unless you have a car, it's difficult to travel places after dark, let's say. And there are a lot of places close. And then also she mentioned, shopping here is obviously not going to be anything like shopping in China. Yes, that's true. A lot of people buying things online here as well, though, like clothes. And then you mentioned something else, and I forgot what it was, but...
头发。
Oh, yes. Yeah, the last thing was just getting a haircut. China is a great place to get your hair cut, right? Yeah. There's just like barbers everywhere, and they have super fancy places you can go that are still quite cheap, and then you have really cheap little holes in the wall places you can go to get your hair cut were always great. When I found out about the hair salons in China, you can go there just to get your hair styled, 做个造型, and that's it. When I found out you can do that in China for like 20 renminbi, I did it every day. Every day I go get my hair styled for like $3 or something. It was great because they wash your hair, blow dry, style.
对，那个是非常便宜的。
That was, I missed that. Anyway, that's probably enough for today. I really appreciate you saying all these things and sharing these things with us. I'm also learning and trying to understand more about Chinese people's sort of life here in New Zealand and what they have to go through. So, thanks for coming to chat today.
不客气，我也非常开心能够再次和 Regan 一起聊天。我们下次见。
Goodbye.